Sexual violence affects 1 in 5 women in Australia. Physical violence affects 1 in 3. 1 in 4 children has witnessed violence against their mum or stepmum. Domestic violence is something we keep a secret. It affects women and children and has devastating effects emotionally, physically, mentally, and financially, and for a woman's health, confidence, and career. We also know that it affects everyone, women from all walks of life and socioeconomic backgrounds. And we also know that the violence can continue long after the relationship ends. It's time to talk about the impact domestic violence is having on Australian women. By bringing their stories to the light, we help end the fear and shame of silence and reach out to other women in need of support. So let's start at the beginning. What was your first experiences of there being some violence in your home growing up?
We lived in a large country house. We moved up in South Australia, and so my twin and I would be down one end of the house, and you'd just hear the door slam, and you just knew to stay away, and that there was going to be a bit noisy for a bit. Sometimes my twin and I would go outside and just spend time together, just so we didn't have to be inside and listening to the violence, and it was something we just escaped from.
It was like living in a village. My background is Yugoslav, half Serbian, half Croatian, all that kind of stuff, and he was Bosnian. Family scenario where the mother-in-law, father-in-law, sister, everyone lived together. So basically, when I look now, looking at the young girl then, I was an unpaid slave. I was taught to wash his feet, put his socks on, whole bunch of stuff.
It was the waiting. That was the most terrifying part. And I know there are women out there who completely relate to that. It was the waiting. It was lying there to wait to hear the key going in the lock, or more to the point, if the key was not going in the lock and poking all over, so you could tell how bad he was, under the influence.
And then came his snap. He snapped because his parents were going through their own dramas. At this point, we lived on our own, and it became fists. I'm sort of really shortening the whole thing. I was in and out of hospital a lot.
The violence towards me was sexual abuse and emotional abuse, which started soon after he married my mum, and that lasted for almost 7 years.
So you say that that you had children against your will. Were you raped?
Many times.
I got to the stage where I thought I was going mad, because he would do something like he pushed me quite strongly, and I fell backwards, head over turkey, over a sound system that we had set up, and I landed in the corner with my head down in the corner and my feet up, and I was in quite a bit of pain, and I said, I can't believe you just did that. And he said, did what? And I said, you just pushed me. And he said, no, I didn't. You fell backwards. He said, I came towards you and you tripped over. And I'm just going, did I? No, I didn't trip over. You don't like that. And then he's just standing there and so convincing, it didn't happen. You tripped over. And so did he know what he was doing? Yeah, but I think he had crafted denial so well.
My mum began to have a hunch that something was wrong. She began to ask me roundabout questions to try and find out, but I wouldn't say anything at first.
Why didn't you say anything?
Out of fear that if he was questioned, that it would intensify or that it would just become worse, and also out of fear that maybe it was something that I was doing, that it was because of the pajamas I was wearing, or it was because I'd gone and bought a new dress and it was lower than usual, or if there was something that I might have been causing, and I didn't want that. I wanted things to remain manageable, in a sense, to the point that in my mind I thought if I could just keep things the way they are. I felt, because as I was getting older, I started to get a bit of control over the situation, because I began to notice that some things were wrong as I got about 13, 14 years old. I began to stand up for myself and even say no in some circumstances. But when my mum came to me and just said, I know something's wrong, you need to tell me, and I told her, and she called the police and they came and took him away.
I actually defended him, believing his parents and everyone that, my children would hate me if he went to jail. And by that time I had 3. The baby was, she would have been about 2 when all this happened. So he got off scot-free, well, in my eyes scot-free, because he had a 2-year good behaviour, actually 10-year good behaviour bond. I finally grew up when my son was 11. When my son was 11, he rang the police on his dad. And when the constable said that it came from the home, that's when I left and never went back.